Welcome to Whisky.com. My name is Lüning, Horst Lüning, and I'm the master taster of Whisky.com. Today, my bottle is a Bruichladdich, independent bottled by Signatory Vintage. And an independent bottler is a company who buys casks from the distillery and matures them as long as they want. When they decide now it's ready, it's the time for bottling. The independent bottler Signatory Vintage has bottled this whiskey without any chill filtration. I had only one whiskey today. It's unchill filtered and it's not colored, artificially colored. So this is the color from the casks. It's 19 years old, quite old, and the casks are hogsheads, which means they are refilled. They are casks slightly larger than the normal American standard barrel, and they carry 250 liters. And this bottling come from two hogsheads, number 3623 and 3626, and the total output was 651 bottles. It's 19 years old, as I said. It was distilled on November 20th, 1992, and it was bottled on March the 2nd, 2012. So it's already nearly 2 years in the bottle, and these casks are very rare. The Bruichladdich distillery was bought by Jim Beam in the 80s or 90s, in the 80s, I think, late 80s. And then they stopped production in 1994. I visited them, no, 1995. I visited them in the year they stopped production. I was one of the very last who was able to visit the distillery then. And these casks are from 92. That means 3 years or 2.5 years before closing of the distillery. After the closure of the distillery, the proprietor, Jim Beam, took a lot out of the casks out of the distillery, used them for blends. It was part of either Invergordon or White & Mackay, one of those two big Scottish companies. They were both bought by Jim Beam, and then they put the cask, as always, into those blends, but did not produce new ones. So the stock went down quite fast, and when the stock was close to empty, then they sold the distillery to a private company for, I don't know, 5 million Great Britain pounds sterling, close to that. And they in 2000, I think, and they restarted production and built the brand up new. And in 2012, in December, I think they sold it for 90-something million US dollars to Remy Control. So this is one of the very, very last stock from the time before the closure of the distillery. Today, Bruichladdich produces an awful lot of different whiskies, from non-peated to slightly peated to extreme peated, and they produce the most peated whiskey at all, the Octomore, with 160-something ppm smoke in the barley. But in former times, Bruichladdich didn't use smoke or peat for drying the barley at all. So it was one of the very few really unpeated single malt from the Isle of Islay. It's a fruitiness in the front, which is very untypical for the Bruichladdich of today. Today they produce a different whiskey. And on top of the fruitiness, there's a little bit of citrus. And afterwards, more sweetness develops. But the main character is sweetness. No, fruitiness with a touch of sweetness. And this citrus notes gives a little hint of dryness. But the main is fruitiness. From the cask, the 19 years of maturation, there's not much to feel, not much to smell. There's a little bit of caramel coming up. So this is an indication that there are refill casks, that the first intense caramel and vanilla from the freshly burnt casks has gone into some other spirit. And now we have a refill maturation for a long, long time. But this long, long time will extract as much out of the casks than a whiskey which was filled in 3 years for the first time in the cask. But the compounds in the whiskey will be others. So we'll get more of the oak and less of the caramel, more of the tannins, more of the intense aromas. Yeah, a slight spiciness is coming up. Full-bodied, intense, sweet oranges, and it's mouth-watering, and a slight spiciness is coming up. No bitterness at all. It's a spiciness together with these oranges, juice oranges, sweet juice oranges. And now in the aftertaste, a little more dryness is developing. In '95, I tasted the old 21-year-old Bruichladdich in a bar in Loch Indal. There's a hotel with a bar, and before dinner, in front of dinner, we had a Bruichladdich 21 years old. And I have not this photographic memory to tell you this is exactly what I tasted then, no. But there is a kind of remembrance of the old 21-year-old. Oranges, and very little caramel is coming up and sweetens the orange. Yeah, interesting and very, very rare. Thank you for watching Whisky.com, and please stay tuned.